Recording started.
Okay. All right, why don't you start our slides here? All right, good morning, everyone. This is Doug Zimmer. We sent out the advanced materials. Hope you had a chance to look at that and were able to open it. I know I had to permit some folks to get to it, but we really wanted to walk through today some things that are happening here at CIM and share some information about our cost pressures and what we're doing for you, and talk about the structures that we put together for the contracts for next fiscal year. So as introductions, we're just going to introduce ourselves. As I said, I'm Doug Zimmer. I'm the owner. For those of you that are not familiar, I founded the company back in 1980 and operated it with my business partner, Carol Clifford, until she retired 4 years ago. And for those of you that are old timers, Carol sends her best. And now I'm the sole owner, and I lead the company. Melissa's with me today. She's now currently our Chief Operating Officer, but you probably know her a lot more in terms of her leadership for the MISA Service Bureau activities for CIM. And she has been with us for over 20 years, as many of our staff have. We've got great longevity with the team here. The CIM is very engaged in two large projects. One is this project that we do for you guys, the MISA Service Bureau, but we also have a contract, just thought you might be interested, with the New York State Department of Health. We deployed an application for them back in 2014, and we've continued to support and evolve that application for them. It's a little bit different model in terms of the system runs on New York owned equipment and it's owned by them, but a very similar kind of application with the InterEye tools and things like that. So we've got a couple of different major projects here, this being one of them that we wanted to talk to you about today. So next slide is our purpose. So we really just wanted to take some time, appreciate your carving out some time in your day to provide some background and context for the fact that we didn't want to just throw information over the wall about next year's contracts. And so we thought we'd set the stage to help you understand where we're coming from. So that's our purpose today, is to set that stage. So we're going to start with a presentation by me about the cost pressures that we're facing, and then I'll turn it over to Melissa to review the activities that are going on as we deliver the services that we provide through the MISA Service Bureau. Melissa, do you think, should we take a moment and see if anybody has anything that they're having problems with or want to let us know about for the meeting? Do you ever do that?
Yeah, is everybody seeing the presentation okay? Okay, getting a lot of heads nodding.
Yeah, I only see like one person in my sidebar here, but okay. Well, we're gonna hope there is a I don't tend to use it. There is a chat function, right, that they could
Yes.
post a note to you. Okay. So we wanted to talk about 4 areas where we just continue to have pressure in terms of continually increasing costs. And I know many of you are managers at your agencies and are acutely aware of that same issue from your side of the house in different ways. And so these are our areas where we have cost pressures. One is on the regulatory side, another is in the hosting. Staffing is always a challenge for all of us. And then, we're in the software development business, so we have a lot of automation in-house to support that, all of which represents significant investments in costs. So I'm going to walk through each one of those now. From a regulatory change perspective, we are really trying to sell the MISA Service Bureau in the context in the business is known. All right, so Patty's asking for somebody to send her share a link. Okay.
I'll send that to him.
I don't know that Patty was on our first list, but yeah.
Okay.
Software as a service is this notion that we charge, as you know, a fixed monthly amount that you can easily budget for and know what's going to be coming in the way of charges. And for that, we provide you unlimited access, unlimited technical support, and this compliance with federal and state policy changes. And, as we all know, that has been on the rise, and there's been, just an increase in the kinds of policy considerations and new opportunities in some cases that are being presented through the Medicaid program. And so we do have, fortunately, you may not know, we have a separate arrangement with the Department of Technology, Management, and Budget at the state of Michigan that is a IT contract in which they are brokering our services to MDHHS. We used to have straight contracts and grants directly from MDHHS, and we've moved that over to be with DTMB. So we do have a business relationship with the state of Michigan, and we do a lot of work for them at their direction. And we also do a lot of this collaboration with them so that, they join with us to kind of get out ahead as they're considering new things. So that we think is a fabulous approach, and we really appreciate that relationship. And we have another relationship with you in which we're really looking to understand what business you're in, how it operates. We spend a lot of time learning about how the My Choice program needs to have data collected for it. So that's another part of our just staying on top of it in terms of the policy changes. And what we're finding is that all of these things take a fair amount of time, and they're not necessarily very straightforward. And in particular, we do see a huge increase in the help desk, not so much for how does the system work, but we spend a lot of time and effort to help people within the My Choice community to use the data that's collected in this very vast and robust system to be able to meet local reporting requirements. And sometimes, those can take a short amount of time and there's just some coaching, but other times they take a significant effort to deliver that. So all of that together, we find just keeps growing in terms of its complexity and its demands on our time. So just kind of sharing that with you. We enjoy the work, but it is demanding. So the next area is in the hosting side. As you know, your data resides on our servers. So we recently went through a process of evaluating our commercial data center. We relocated the entire MSB server world from Ann Arbor to Southfield. We use 123net, and the servers sit there, and they have access control systems, firewalls, biometric access. People can't get to our equipment, all the things that HIPAA requires. They have the redundant internet, which means that if Comcast is to have a major failure, they can switch over to AT&T. They have multiple large pipes coming into the data center that all cost money to support. And they have actually their own electrical substation. So they generate their own electricity using natural gas. Any excess they sell back to DTE. So if the DTE grid were to fail in Southfield, your data servers would continue to operate. So another advantage, but all of those things, take money, and we have to pay the fees for 123net. We are continually needing to upgrade our hardware and software. We're always buying more faster, more secure networking equipment. We have improved what's known as high availability, which is to say, if we ever had any single point of failure within our entire technology stack, from when the data process comes into 123net through all the array of servers that we have, things would continue to operate. If we were to lose a hard drive, they're in high availability arrays. If we were to lose a power supply, there's redundant power supplies. All of that kind of capability where you have two of the same thing and it's set up and configured to fail over if there was a disaster or a failure of any form of equipment. It takes money to build that. It takes money to spend time to configure it and maintain it, but it is the right thing to do. And we're doing, we think, a great job on providing uptime hosting services. Our downtime is just hardly is non-existent. Obviously, we do have sometimes where we do service interruptions to do new upgrades, but generally our uptime is we're very proud of it. So hosting is a cost center for us. The next area is staffing, and I've made allusions to this. You may not realize that we have 15 people, not counting me, that form the MSB team. Melissa is our project manager. We have a dedicated business analyst that many of you have worked with, Emily. We have a couple of people who do both the combination of help desk and quality assurance at DBA. We have a lead developer who's on the call today, 5 full stack developers, and then the sysops technicians that maintain our security, our backups, our network, help your people if they're having connection problems, etc. So it takes a village to make the MSB work. We have 15 dedicated folks working for you, plus we have contracts for outside services as we need them. So we use a company out of Troy, New York called Gray Castle Security, and we're doing a significant overhaul of all of our security set up, both from the point of view of establishing what is our policy on how to handle every aspect of our security, what are our practices, and what are our protocols, and getting all of that documented. And we're trying to meet the NIST standards for security through hiring a consulting firm from the outside to help us do that. And then we're also using a contract with a company that's actually in, what is it, Melissa, Finland? Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scandinavian company, Vaden. We really like their software that helps us build your software. And so we license the software from them, but we're also using them to provide some contract programming services so we can build the Compass Next capabilities that we're working on. Staffing is a challenge, as I'm sure you've run into right now. And, last couple of times we've been recruiting development talent and QA talent, and we're getting outbid. I think the most recently, I think DraftKings hired somebody that we were interested in, and Ford Motor Company hired somebody. So it's tough out there to compete in the IT world and get good talent, but we're doing the best we can. But it's not, it's a cost center. Let me just say that it's continuing. There's a lot of competition in IT. Everybody sees IT as so important. So staff in that arena are commanding good salaries, good benefits, and that just adds to our staffing cost. And then finally, we've made some very strategic investments internally. These are things that you guys don't see much of, but make a big difference to us. One is our virtual machine technology. You may have heard of something called VMware. That's kind of the leader in this industry. We use something else called OpenStack that's a little bit more affordable. But essentially, we can set up servers that can turn into 100 different individual instances of a particular set of software that simulates its own device. So the virtual machine is a spin up on an array of equipment that lets, for example, at any given point in time, we have the MISA Service Bureau software applications running concurrently. You saw we had 6 full-time developers, and they're all maybe having multiple instances on this virtual machine. We've also made investments in collaboration software like we've never had before. From a company called Atlassian, we use their Confluence to document our system specs and then have residual documentation of all the decisions we've made. We use their Jira tool to create the software sprints that we can organize all of our work and see how we're doing in terms of the development timelines and where we stand on the development process on each individual discrete work item. We have better error notification. We're making very important investments in automated tests. Every time we do a release of the software, we really feel like we've made a huge improvement in the quality that goes out. We have fewer issues that emerge because we didn't catch it in the test cycle. So our testing has really gone up. And all of that has necessitated some strategic investment. So we're sharing with you, some of the things that we're trying to do to be the best that we can be in delivering services to you. through this automation internally to the software development, not necessarily the automation of the tools that we deliver for you. So I think that's my part. Yeah. So we're going to shift gears. Maybe, Melissa, do you ever try to ask for questions this big of a
Yeah,
group?
we can certainly stop and ask if there's questions about anything Doug's covered so far.
All right. So we'll pause for a second. I think it's just a click of the microphone at the bottom and we would hear you. We're not raising hands in this context, are we?
No.
No.
And then those of you on the phone may have to unmute yourself. You'd have to do *6 to do that.
Oh, we have call-ins. Okay. So I'll just give it a couple seconds here to see. Okay. Well, then let's just have Melissa take it away. We're going to shift gears from some of the things that we're encountering from a cost perspective and move into what we're planning to do on your behalf in terms of deliverables.
All right, so I'm starting with current efforts, and we could have gone into a lot of detail, but of course we don't want to cover that level at this time. We wanted to explain what we're doing, where we're going, so that you guys have an idea of what's coming. So the first thing that we've been building right now is the NIFTY/Community Transition Services claims software for those agencies that do the transition services. So we're working on that. We have also had a work group for figuring out the NAPIS gender-related questions that needed to be added to the system. And it was made known to us that you guys wanted to collect it differently. So we formed a work group, worked through that, and identified what fields. And we're working right now with ASA to try to get them either to align with us or agree to the mapping that the work group came up with. So that's still in process. We are also working on currently the replacement of MISIS vendor view and vendor billing, which is a huge overhaul, which will be the Compass version 4.1. And those that are involved in design calls, we're at the design of vendor billing stage. So we're seeing the end of the tunnel. It's been a long road, but and we'll talk about that in a minute here too. The other thing we're working on is we are restarting, I guess, an idea we started 6 years ago, which was to come to your offices and review the processes going on, how they're using the system, find out firsthand what are the pain points, offer suggestions if we notice that there may be some improvement that could be done in workflow, if they knew these certain shortcuts or these features that agencies sometimes are completely unaware the system can do for them. So we renamed that into being a process improvement workshop versus job shadow was what we had called it in the past. So I'm currently working on a survey to send out to everybody to ask for information on doing that. We have been already asked if that could be done virtually now, and that's certainly on the table. So watch for that in the coming days for something that we'd like to work with you on. The other thing we've been involved with is the MDHHS presumptive eligibility pilot that they got a $5 million grant, I believe. I'm not sure exactly, to be able to pay for services during the presumptive eligibility period when they do not become eligible. So we've been working with the state on figuring out how to, at state and some of your staff actually, how to code that in the system so that when the pilot starts, that we kind of have a seamless transition into being able to capture the data required to do that. The other big piece is electronic visit verification, which is called EVV. So if you start hearing that acronym or already have, that is a very big undertaking that the state is trying to implement due to federal requirements. We've been working on advanced planning with MDHHS as far back as 2020. So we recently just had a call Doug and I did with Elizabeth Gallagher and one of their consultants on this to try to make sure that they understand the My Choice project and what is collected and what's not, what's available, what things will have to be built out, et cetera, to try to understand the business of it and what our system can do for that. And Doug and I sat in a conference room afterwards and tried to map it out, and it was a whole whiteboard full of processes and new implementations that would have to be done. It's quite a huge effort. So we are working right now in the planning stages, but that's coming soon too. Needed versus scheduled services work group. This was something that was brought up on a waiver director call, and the state, Elizabeth's supposed to be scheduling a meeting and will invite us to be working on that too. So I haven't heard any more about that yet, but that's another effort that we're working on with you guys as well. So that's current. The next part one is additional features. So I'm not going to go through all these. I just wanted to include them, but basically we wanted to point out that our 4.1 release that is replacing MySys and vendor view and vendor billing and building it all, integrating it all into Compass. So it's a one-stop shop. It's going to definitely be interoperable with the agencies and vendors. So you guys and the vendors will share screens. There's a lot of improvements to and features that were not initially, are not, I guess I should say, they're not features you have today. And so some of them we knew that you needed, and it's been a long time coming. And so it was the time to do that now, as well as things that if we do it later, it's going to cost us more. So there's a lot of new features that are going to come along with that 4.1 release that'll be very nice for people to use. And then that's basically what these next two slides are all about. So I'm not going to read them all, but you can look at that. And so I'm trying to think if there's anything else I really want to say about it. But a lot of these features are basically to help improve your users' productivity, so things go faster for them. They, less redundancy. More communication abilities is a big piece in that between you and vendors. It has ADA accessibility to this new WACG compliance that is under part of our efforts with our security, as well as having more compliant with the other types of regulations that are out there. And we're just moving to use an actual specific requirement, or not requirement, but security standard, I should say. So that's what that's all about. And so, these are very important things that are going to help you achieve more compliance to specific standards as well. So they're pretty meaningful features to your staff that are going to be coming in the 4.1 release. Then post 4.1 needs. So these are all items that we know that are going to need to be done, but currently are not slated to be part of 4.1 and will be done later. We've had a request recently to load the MDHHS LOC due dates from CHAMPS that Wayland sends us weekly to do to-dos versus manually entering them. There is the need that we have to accept 837P claims files from your vendors and then send them back the remittance, basically what happened, of what we got approved, what didn't, as that's a federal requirement that we're not achieving now. We've been using direct data entry only. There's the electronic visit verification, development, implementation that's going to need to be done, which if the state decides to go the route of making those claims, then we have to build that out additionally, more so than what the base EVV is, where the basically the state would take the EVV entries and turn them into a claim from the vendor, and then we'd have to return that back to the EVV system. So that would be an extra that we are not currently expecting, but we know it's a possibility. There's also the need to link the PCSP, the person-centered service plan, directly to the service schedule. And we're going to need a lot of input from you guys once service schedule's out to know how that should be linked. And that plan is to then combine the backup plan, the PCSP report, and service summary reports to have that all in one place. We need to replace Clear Access as an ad hoc reporting tool. We need to rewrite status at some point to change out from all of those older statuses that we've been using, and kind of limping along, and it works, but we no longer have SMU, we don't have MU, we don't have MFP, but SSP is really not in there. So that needs to happen. And there's also we had never anticipated encounters to be rejected, and that changed after the initial design and launch of that. So we have to build out at some point the ability for you guys to view your own versus us sending you over the rejected reports, and being able to resubmit them in Compass versus us, auto resubmitting them possibly anymore. So so that's the post 4.1 needs. And then on top of all of that is all these additional software requests that currently they really are not on the scope of work to, to include as part of your current MSB contracts, because they are not a federal requirement or a state requirement. But they are things that we know that you'd like to add, but we haven't had the capacity to do so. So on that list is, electronic signatures has been a big pain point. The ability to send claims to Medicare or other insurers. There's, a wide variety of things, and we don't necessarily have to do any of them, but these are things that we've heard of in the past that we would need to do if, you guys requested it. But those are things that are sitting on the back burner right now because of all the other things that we need to get done. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to open it up to questions right now about all that. Remember, those on the phone, *6 to unmute yourself. Okay, so Doug.
All right. So now we're going to move into a couple slides that aren't part of the PDF because we wanted to walk through these with you jointly, but we would share them with you as a follow-up. When we planned for the next fiscal year charges, we had to take a look at the fact that we haven't had any profit on this enterprise for the last couple of years. And, that was actually okay. We realized that we were at a point of replacing some legacy technology with that MISIS client, and that we needed to make some strategic investing into the MSB to move it forward into a fully web-based application. So, that's part of the investment cycle that we've had running this business since 2007, 8, wherever it was, and that we understand. And, I was willing to do that. But then these other things that we've been talking about just kept mounting and mounting, and it just isn't sustainable. So we did a significant charge upgrade last year, a large increase, unprecedented level, and in response to dealing with the cost situation. And we just think that the demands for the software, are just so important that we just need to have enough money here to do the things that need to get done. And we do see that there's the data analysis needs are also on the rise. We just got an email within the last couple of days with a request for a significant amount of data mart support, very intriguing ideas. We'd love to be able to do that. So there's a lot that can go on, but just maintaining our compliance with, the HIPAA regs and the NIST security standards demand additional investments. So all of that, we've tried to set the stage for where we're going next year. So the next slide is a profile of what we're intending to do. Your FY23 contracts will include this 15% increase in the base. Now that's what we did last year. We're doing it again. It's in some respects, I think maybe we've just been undercharging and now we're playing catch up. I'm not sure. Or maybe this is just the new day. But there'll be a 15% increase again. And as those of you that know from last year, depending on where you sit within the allocation process, the 15 is in the total, but your percent will be individualized based on our allocation processes. So, there will be few people that will get exactly 15% increase. Everybody's either going to get a little bit more, a little bit less, depending on your share of the cost structures that we use for allocating the expense. We try to be fair. And then for the first time, we're going to include a couple of new surcharges. One is to allocate across all of the waiver agencies these inter-eye royalties that we've been hit with. It used to be a nominal charge to maintain the business relationship with Inter-RAI. We use their home care tool within the My Choice assessment, and that requires that us as a vendor have a license with them. what used to be a couple of thousand is now erupted into a $17,000 charge. We've been in negotiation with process with InterRI for, I don't know, like 2 years, Melissa, maybe quite a while, trying to sort
Yes.
this out. It started out like 3 times that much, and we were like, what? So we've been kind of interacting with them and pushing back on their charge structure. And we've gotten it, we think, down to this $17,000, but that's just a lot to absorb. So we're going to allocate that across the board. And then there's a couple of areas where we're going to do surcharges that cover kind of our additional and unique expenses related to certain kinds of operations. The nifty operations, the nursing facility transitions are going to have a surcharge of 50% of what we anticipate developing for that portal, because that's only a subset of all agencies that are in that business. And so we're going to designate a certain amount of money as a surcharge and allocate that across that group of organizations to help cover the costs of that unique operation. We also are going to do a surcharge related to those agencies who have become their own billing agent, because that represents an additional time expense for us. I don't think there's we haven't had to build a lot of technology for that. It's just more handling it. And then finally, those organizations that have integrated care organization warehouse files and encounters that they're exchanging. And again, that's just another mechanical operation that has a meter that's running of time that we're going to allocate costs against. Pretty nominal, but that'll be a surcharge. And so the concept is that there's the 15% base, and then there's these one surcharge that everybody gets, and 3 surcharges, these last 3 on the list, that are idiosyncratic to those that have that applicable business process that they're using the MISA Service Bureau for. So what's next? We're going to be distributing, I think Melissa's kind of staged this up, so I'm not sure. Are you thinking later today or tomorrow, something like that? You're going to get an individualized letter, and it will indicate to you the amount of the monthly charge for the base, and that will include the NRI, and then if you have a surcharge, how much that would be. And obviously our mechanics have always been that there's this contract that needs to be executed and signed. Sometimes that's a board approved thing, so it takes a while. So we always try to get this going early on to leave several months before the new contract period kicks in. The new rates will be billed out in September, and that's how we bill you in September for the month of October services. And that's been the way things have operated for many years. So that's how we see the fiscal year 2023 contract process continuing. The provisions within the contract we're not intending to change anything in there in terms of the language. It's just the costs. Melissa, anything you would add to that?
I don't think so. I guess the only thing is when you talked about the Nifty, it said Nifty portal, which we used it for the number of people in the Nifty portal, but the surcharge is because of the claims development, not for the Nifty portal development. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Good clarification, right. And I would say the other thing that we, once we get this information out to you and you're able to absorb, what your part of this is, then, we can certainly engage in conversation, and talk about it and help explain ourselves further or answer any questions or whatever it might be. So we thought it was important enough and significant enough to ask you to spend some time with us today to hear kind of our justification and rationale and where we're coming from and who we are, and then rather than just throw this over the wall and have it land on your desk. So thanks for attending today. Currently willing to open it up at this point to any questions that you may have, but that's that's our presentation. So you can unmute.
This is Kelly from the Senior Alliance, and you may have said, Melissa, when is the 4.1 or whatever number, when is that expected to happen?
We aren't sure yet, as we're still currently designing the vendor billing module. That's going to be a key factor in us being able to do a final estimate. So we are working on that now. We have the next couple design groups are dedicated to that. And once that work is more finalized, we'll be able to get better estimates as to where, what work is left to know what the end game will be.
What do we
So-
hope to, when do we hope to have that, Melissa? Is that like a month? Is that 3 months? What are from now?
We probably, I would say
Projected
2 to
date.
3 months, 2 to 3 months for sure, because we don't even have another meeting till the 3rd week of June to do some more billing, and I'm not sure if we'll be done at that point. So 3 is probably a better guess of when we would know more.
Good question, Kelly. Anyone else? All right. Well, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen to us today and joining our little meeting here. We're going to record it if you, and then we're going to put it out for those. We've had a couple of people ask, who couldn't attend. They had conflicts and are very interested, of course. So we'll make that recording available. All right. Thank you very much.